Welcome to the walkthrough for ORCA, CareerPerfect's order management system. Over the course of this, I'm going to be taking you through the basic features of ORCA, how to manage projects, how to find resources like project templates and scripts, and how to use the basic communication features of the system. So first off, whenever you log into your writer account, it's going to look like this. You'll see your name up here. If you ever needed to update your contact information, you could do so there. The main portion of your window is going to be your project queues. This includes links to each status that the project can be in, as well as a search function that I'll show you later, and a place where you can see all your project earnings. We have down here your menu of various tools, your messages, schedule manager, the knowledge base, and writer support resources. So to start off, let's begin with the message inbox. This sort of is a, well, the first place you're probably going to check when you log into ORCA. It's where you'll find any new messages that you've received from your writer, from your clients, or from our support and editorial teams. So if you click on here, that brings up the inbox. By default, they're sorted into client messages, which means they came from clients, which are always highlighted in this green color, and internal messages, which means they came from our support or editorial teams, which are always highlighted in the blue color. You can sort them just by date, so the newest ones come first, the oldest ones come last. You can also sort them by client, so that the ones associated with each client are separated off from each other. When you click into a message, you'll see here that it acts just like email. You have the ability to go back into your inbox, reply. You can remove it from the inbox. You can send positive feedback, and you can go and look up the projects associated with this. So if you click that, it'll open up a new window where you can see the client's information. That's especially useful if you end up getting a message from a client who's from a ways past. Send positive feedback is an interesting function. If a client sends you praise, telling you that they think the resume is great or that they really appreciate your work or something along those lines, you can click that button, and that notes positive feedback reported on the message, and that sends that in to a queue that we can review. It's one of the ways we get our testimonials. It's also something available to our partners, etc., who can see, the great service you're providing. An important thing to note about the message inbox is that it is really designed to just be a landing point. It's where you take care of any of your action items. And it's really important to remember to remove messages once the action is completed. So as you may recall from the orientation email, the expectation is that any message will receive a response within 3 to 4 business hours. So that means Monday through Friday, about 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'm sorry, I'm getting my time zones all mixed up. 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Time. You're not required to work 24/7. You're not required to respond on weekends, although you're free to. What that 3 to 4 hours means is that if you receive a message from a client in the evening after you've stepped away from your computer, I would expect to see you respond to that message within the first 3 to 4 hours of your day. The client shouldn't be going 2 and 3 days not hearing from you. But responding to that message doesn't necessarily mean that you need to do the action associated with it. So on this message from Andre Graves, he has sent revisions. I would want to see a response saying, great, I have your revisions. I'll get those to you in the next day or so within that 3 to 4 hours. You don't necessarily need to send the revisions within that time. So what most of our writers do is they'll do that initial response. They'll send the message along saying, hey, I'll get you your revisions within a day or two. And then they keep the message in there until they've actually sent the revisions, and then they will go in and mark it for removal. And this is a test message, no real action. So we can go ahead and remove both of those. And now the inbox is empty. The next thing down here is the set schedule feature. Set schedule allows you to tell us when you're available for projects, as well as setting time away. And both of these features are fairly real time. So if you go into the daily availability tool and you were to set yourself for 2 every day with a maximum per week of 10 and save changes, you'd find back in here that you can see what you have set. But let's say today being a Wednesday, that you realize, oh, I have an appointment I need to go to tomorrow morning. My time to write projects that I receive on Wednesday is going to be cut out. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to reduce Wednesday down to 1 and save it. And you'll immediately show in our system as available for fewer projects. You can do it the other way around too. Let's say that one project you got is a really straightforward project. It's only going to take you 45 minutes or an hour to complete. You could increase that back up. This availability is set based upon when you're going to get assigned the project, not based upon when it's due to the client. So if you know that you're going to be largely unavailable on Thursday, then you might want to reduce your availability on Wednesday. If you know you're going to have a lot of availability to write on Friday, you might increase your availability on Thursday so that you have time to write those extra projects on Friday. The time away feature is a way that you can tell us that you're going to be completely unavailable for a period of time. It can be a day where you're not going to be able to check messages or take any new assignments. It could be a week, 2 weeks. You simply set when you're going to be gone from and to, indicate a reason. Now there's 2 options with this. You can either have support monitor your account, which means you're not going to be logging in, you're not going to be responding to client messages. You are leaving it to us to take care of. Or you can say that you are going to be monitoring your account, which simply means you're not going to take on any new work, but any existing work, any revision processes, any new messages from clients you'll address. If you're on vacation or you're going to be someplace where you know you're going to have very limited computer access, where you're not going to be able to respond more often than maybe once a day at most, I would ask you to have support monitor your account. If you are going to be at a conference or something like that, you'll have several times during the day to check in and respond to revisions and be able to take care of things in the evening. Then you can say that you're going to monitor your account. The key difference between these 2 things on a workflow level is that if you're having us monitor your account, you need to ramp down your workflow in the week or so before your time away, if it's going to be for more than just a day or 2, because we want to make sure that there are as few new projects in revision as possible. So you should have at least 2 or 3 business days between when your last client got their first draft and when you leave, to make sure you at least have a few business days to work with them on revision if you're going to have us monitor your account. If you're going to monitor your account, you can work right up until the day that you are leaving at normal volume, because you'll be taking care of any revisions. Once you've saved time away, you'll be able to see what you've listed. You can go in and edit it. So maybe you thought you were going to have plenty of time, but as it turns out you won't, so you're going to be changing that. And now it shows that support's monitoring your account instead of you monitoring your account. You can also, if you discover you thought you were going to be gone but you're not going to be, you can delete that time away. And once it's gone, it's removed from our system, so you show as available again. This is the difference between setting time away and changing your availability to 0. They're very similar for the most part. The time that it's most different is when we're talking about returning projects. When you have a client who's coming back to get an additional resume done or updates to a resume you've done in the past, you're automatically considered available for those, even if you've set yourself to 0. But if you have set time away saying I'm available for no projects at all, then we will assign that client to a new writer. So if you've simply set yourself to 0, but have not set time away, we will still send you returning clients. If you've set time away, we will not send you any projects at all. The next area down is the knowledge base. This has access to the templates for resumes and cover letters that you'll use. Scripts that we have pre-written for you to help you with client communication. This includes scripts that you'll use during the process of accepting and submitting and going through revisions on projects. The Project Quick Start has access to the prices for project payment, how much each project pays by default, what you're expected to do in terms of each basic project type, things of that nature. The style guide has our advanced treatments as well as our house rules for different formatting and style. And then your responsibilities, this is essentially our expectations on you working with your clients and with us as we create outstanding resumes for job seekers. In the near future, we're working on moving the bulk of this into a searchable wiki to increase your access to all of those things, so watch for that here in the near future. The writer support menu has just a number of resources to help with things that aren't necessarily related to specific projects, but you might come to use on projects. The first thing is a way to contact us when it's not related to a client. Your non-client related messages go through here. If it's client related, you would of course want to send them through the client's project so that it's clearly documented and associated with that. And I'll show you more about that here in a moment. Accolades, this is an area where if you receive positive feedback from our editorial team, from our support team for outstanding service, those will be tracked for you there. If a client asks about what our website is or what our email address is or what our phone number is, you can find the contact info there. Brief details about CareerPerfect as a company can be found here. If a company asks you about your credentials or about how much experience you have, I suggest that you lean on this as your source of information, and that we're members of these organizations and that this is our history rather than drawing on your own. If a client really pushes on that, reach out to order support so that we can guide you in effectively responding. Other resources are various, kind of a catch-all thing of things like acronym finder and downloads for Adobe if you don't already have it, things of that nature. And then you also have access to the client side FAQ, the frequently asked questions that clients have in their account. So that if a client's asking you a question, you're like, well, this must be somewhere. You're probably right, and it's probably in the client's FAQ, and you can feel free to direct them to there. And of course, if as you're exploring these in more detail, you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My team and I are happy to help you out. So now let's turn our attention to our project queues. The queues that you're most likely going to be interacting with include the new and in progress. This is where you'll always land when you log in. These are new projects that you have just been assigned, or ones that you have accepted and haven't yet submitted. So these are the ones you're writing right now. In review means you have submitted it to the quality review team, but we have not yet delivered it to the client. And just like the live QA that OMS has, where you have to submit it and it gets approved or rejected by QA, this is very similar to that. So we will send it off to the client on your behalf with your message once we finish this. And you do have the ability to recall a project. You can ask for it to be returned to you. If you realize, oh, the client sent me some additional information, I need to provide some a new draft, and this is going to change my message. If the message you're sending to the client with that draft isn't going to change, you can also simply send us a revised draft by using the Send to Writing Center link. Reviewed and pending means that we have released it to the client, it's been approved, and it is now in the revision process, which for executive clients is 30 days. For non-executive clients, all other clients, it's 7 days. Of course, that 7 days is intended to be a guide. It's not a shackle. You shouldn't feel like it's getting in the way of you providing outstanding service. If a client asks you for an extra day or two to get back to you, and that's not a burden on your workflow, you don't need to ask us for permission to extend beyond that 7 days. Additionally, if a client after 3 days and no revisions says, I'm completely happy with these documents, I have no changes, you don't need our permission to finalize it. It can be finalized when the client requests. It can be, and you can certainly choose to extend it beyond the revision time if you so choose. Once you've hit the 7 days or 2 rounds of revision, you of course have the option of coordinating with my team to take over revisions if the client's needs are becoming burdensome and getting in the way of you moving on to other projects. Feel free to reach out to us. We actually have in your writer to client scripts, there is a section managing the revision process, and under the ongoing revisions section, you both have scripts for too many revisions and for transitioning them to an account manager. And this is the one you'd use if you were transitioning them over to my team. Completed generally takes a little time to open because this includes all of the projects you have ever moved from reviewed and pending into completed. So it gets very big and very unwieldy. And it's taking a few seconds to load. All right, there we go. And so it just looks like any of the others, but it goes on for pages and pages and pages once you have a fair number of projects behind you. On hold, these are projects that have been assigned to you, but they're in a holding pattern. The most common reason for this is because it's a strategic follow-up letter. We don't write those until the client has had an interview and provides us with data on that interview. So we don't have any, so it just stays kind of assigned to you, ready to move forward, and it will appear in your new and in progress once the client is ready to go. In the Find Client area, you can type in to find a client. It searches last name, first name, and email. So if I type Smith, it will bring up anybody who has the name Smith in their name or email address. And then you can just click to go into their projects from there. View project earnings will give you a list of the projects that have been completed this pay period. We're actually heading into today is the end of a pay period, so this is about to close down. This is my staff. This is a staff writer account. It's not, this person doesn't work with clients in the same way you do, so everything is zeroed out. We use accounts like these in situations where a client has escalated or needs assistance beyond what we would ask you to do. So your payment information obviously will look different. We'll have actual numbers under the amounts here. And you can go back through other pay periods as well to see any pay periods totals. And if you ever have questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me. This total is reported to Talent's payment team and is paid along with your OMS projects at the same time. So let's go and see what the project lifecycle looks like. We start off, we get a new project. It appears here. We know it's new because the accept and decline buttons are over here. And we also see when it's due to review. That's one of the big pieces of information. Do I have time to complete it by the time it is due? If you've set yourself as available, chances are the answer to that is yes. But there can be extenuating circumstances, so that might be something to take into consideration. When you click on the Accept Project link, you're going to get a message, and this is really important to note. When you accept the project, you're sending a message to the client, and you are confirming. You don't need to check these boxes, but we act as though you have. You reviewed all the documentation, and you have customized this email message to the client. No client should receive just this message. The most common way I see writers customize this is confirming the target. So they might say, I see that you're targeting accounting roles. I will craft your resume with that in mind. And then everything else can say the same, but with that customization, you're going on record letting them know that you know what their goals are. And we'll pop back to that in just a moment. You could also decline the project if you didn't have time or it was outside your areas of expertise. And this is what that looks like. You would just type a reason. Might say, I don't write accounting resumes. Of course, that's an unlikely reason, because one of the things you'll be completing is a listing of your project preferences, what industries you're available to write in, and that's how we assign projects. So if you get an accounting project, it means that you have indicated accounting as being a strong area, or at least an acceptable area for you. Reviewing the client information is pretty straightforward. We have our SkillNet questionnaire that clients complete. This portion is really the only required portion of the questionnaire, and they can attach files. This is where they can tell you about their goals, what industries they're interested in, things of that nature. They also have the option of providing details of their work history, education, training, etc. in here. We won't assign a project unless we have that detail either in the attached document or in the questionnaire. It doesn't have to be in both places, and we don't require one or the other. As long as we have it in one place or the other, we'll move forward with the project. We also ask that you review all files to make, so that you have a clear sense of what information the client has sent. This says SkillNet, so it's the file that was attached to the SkillNet. If it was one the client had sent you, it would be called client. And ones that we send or that you send will always be called, presentation resume or presentation cover letter or bio. They'll be named for the type of document that they are. And then also very important, always review all messages. In this case, there are no messages associated with this particular client. They haven't sent any, but you are accountable for information included in messages. That might include clarification of target that we got from the client. It may also include additional information about their training or background. And so before you accept a project, please look through the messages. They will usually also appear in your view messages inbox, but it's a good idea to check here before accepting and not assume that you noted them all here. So let's go ahead and accept the project. I'll customize the message again. I'll just do a shortened version this time, and then you send the message. So I just sort of jumped through it, and I'll show you in more detail here when we get to the next stage. There's a spell checker in ORCA, and whenever you send a message, you can check the spelling. What is going to go to the client appears in the yellow box. So now you're writing the project. You're ready to submit it to our quality review team, and it needs to be submitted by this time. You just click the submit button. Your resume draft is ready for review. Please don't remove anything from this message. Just like in OMS, you can add to, but you should never remove content. This is another message that should always be customized. Nobody likes receiving generic boilerplate messages. The ways that you would most likely customize this message can be found in the writer to client scripts under sending first draft clarifying strategy. So you might talk about why you use bulleted achievements versus just paragraphs. You can just copy this, drop it in here, and now the client understands why you did what you did. And an educated client is always a happy client. So we ask that you always provide that education, and we provide you with these scripts to help you with that. Now you'd want to attach a document. You see here that all the different document types you can upload are listed essentially as they are in OMS. The only difference is you choose the type and then the file, whereas in OMS you choose the file and then the type. When you so we'll click on presentation resume. Presentation is the Word document version. It's what you are used to thinking of as a resume, and it's what you'll work with the client on during the revision process. You click on browse and you choose the file to attach, and you just repeat that same thing for every file that you're attaching. And you see it's telling you what its name is going to be. And now you have your message here. You can click check spelling, and here in yellow you have what's going to be seen. If there were any unrecognized, i.e. misspelled words, they would appear up here in bold red, and they'd be listed down here. In order to change them, you need to go back into the text box, revise them, and click check spelling again. Once you're ready to send the message, you do so there. And now you'll see that it's gone from here, but it's now showing up here. So now Tara Smith and the test project are both there. And if I wanted to recall the project, I would click this button here. That would bring up a message where I give a reason why I want to recall it. Now, on my end, what I will be doing as an editor, well, my team would be doing, is we'll be checking out and reviewing this project, taking it through the quality review process. I'll pop down and grab it so we can take it through the last stage. You'll see that our side of ORCA looks very similar to your side of ORCA. It's designed to work very similarly. And normally I would download the files, I would review all the information, but we're just doing the quick approach for the sake of the walkthrough. So I will attach a file. And then send the message. And now back on your end, I refresh and review, and it's gone. And you can always see the numbers that are in each stage up above here. For the ones that are kind of in progress. We didn't include numbers on completed or on hold because they come up far less often. It's rarer that you would need to check on them. But our writers find it useful to just at a glance be able to see how many projects they have in each status. And you can see down here the project is now in our reviewed and pending. And you can see that days in review is in red here because it was just released. So this is an area where you should be mindful of not trying to rush things along. The client is early in the revision process. After, on the 4th day, this red will turn yellow. That's a reminder to you that if you haven't heard from the client, you should probably nudge them. And over here under Writer to Client Scripts, we have a Managing Unresponsive Client section. The first nudge, if within 2 to 3 business days or 2 weeks for executive projects, there's no response from the client. And then there's also a second nudge. If you're finalizing without hearing from them, you replace this from the default message with this. So that the client understands why their project is being closed without their response. But let's pretend like we've gone through the revision process and are ready to finalize this. I would just click Complete Project. We get another message here. This is the one message that you don't need to do a lot of customizing to. You might choose to. You have a relationship with this client at this point. You might opt to warm this up with kind regards and well wishes for their job search beyond just the default that are included, but you don't necessarily need to. This is a much more procedural message. And now you'll notice you have the option of uploading final drafts. And that changes it in the system to actually being a final document. This doesn't by itself close things out, and you can send final drafts earlier than this. When you're sending messages, there's a way of doing that. We ask you to please not. Unless a client has asked for final versions and you're completing it, be careful about sending final versions, because getting a final version early can tend to really annoy a client. And this is the message that you would customize with that second nudge language if this was a no response finalization. And now this will disappear and can be found at the top of completed, which is going to take a moment to load. And as it's loading, if you notice here, anything that's in blue means it's reached the amount of days in review that a project is set for that. Anything older than that is still going to show as green. That's basically just a reminder for you that this project is ready for nudging and moving along if you haven't already. In this case, there's some very long dates here. You've noticed these are clients who have escalated for one reason or another, and we're simply providing them with a more extended process to ensure their satisfaction without the original writer needing to bear the burden of that. And so now we see the test project is here. We can see when it was completed, when it was approved. And then we would also now be able to see it because it's been completed. We see it here on the list of payments. Projects are added to this list based upon when they are completed, not when they're delivered to the client. So that's, I suppose, on another level, an incentive to make sure you're managing your projects effectively. So that's the life cycle from new and in progress through to completed and your project earnings. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.